Meeting lipid needs. So in this section, we're going to talk about the recommendations for fat and cholesterol intake, heart healthy food from each section of the My Plate, and how we use food labels to choose foods containing healthy fats. So the amount of the fat the body requires in the diet is small, but a diet that provides only the minimum amount of fat would be very high in carbohydrate and not very palatable, and would not necessarily be any healthier than diets with more fat. That's why the recommendations for fat intake focus on meeting essential fatty acid needs and choosing the amounts and types of fat that will promote health and prevent disease. So in previous years, the focus was on low fat, as low fat as possible, but we found out that that really isn't the best type of diet. Just like you now know that no carbs, all carbs are bad, cut your carbs to lose weight, we know that's not the best way to do it. So fat recommendations: the acceptable macronutrient distribution range for percentage of calories from fat are 20 to 35% of our calories in our daily diet from fat. We talked quite a bit about reducing our omega-6 intake and increasing our omega-3 intake. Why is the exact amount of grams important? Well, you're probably not going to read every food label to get you to the exact gram amount, but what this really tells us is when we're doing our My Plate nutrient breakdown, if you're above or below the recommendations, it gives you an idea of what types of foods you need to focus on in your diet. As far as saturated fat, we know that saturated fats, the chemical structure, and that they contribute to atherosclerosis in our diet. And so reducing that to less than 7% of our total calories, or as little as possible, is our goal. Cholesterol, we want that at less than 300 milligrams a day, and trans fats we really want to limit to as little as possible. Quickly, let me just go back to the cholesterol. The guidelines limiting cholesterol are to less than 300 milligrams per day for the general population. But there is some suggestions that those at higher risk for heart disease reduce their cholesterol intake to less than 200 milligrams. Just overall in general, limiting our sources of solid fats in the diet will help to reduce the intake of saturated fat, trans fat, and cholesterol. Those three all kind of go together. Just a little caveat here: children do need more fat than adults to allow for growth and development. So their acceptable ranges of fat intake are a bit higher, 30 to 40% of calories for children ages 1 to 3, and 25 to 35% of calories for ages 3 to 18 compared to adults. And the reason for that is as they're developing the essential, they're building new myelin sheaths and they need it for cellular development. They need a little bit more fat in diet, but in general, for those children over the age of 2, they need to all reduce their amount of saturated fat, cholesterol, and trans fat. And so when we talk about their higher fat intakes, it's of healthier fats. So how do we choose fats wisely? What we really need to do is look at the individual foods that and how they increase or reduce the development of health promotion or disease prevention factors. So now you should have a good handle on cholesterol, saturated fat, trans fat, sodium. Too much sugar and too many calories are going to increase the incidence of chronic disease. What's going to reduce our incidence of chronic disease risk is increasing, changing those fats to the healthier types of fats, the polyunsaturated fats, our monounsaturated fats, fiber, B vitamins, so fruits and vegetables, antioxidants, and moderate intake of alcohol in our diet. The healthy My Plate choices talk about choosing whole foods, less processed foods. So in this picture, they talk about fish as high in omega-3 fatty acids, which have been known to reduce the risk of heart disease. In addition to lowering our LDL, that's the bad fats, cholesterol, and triglyceride levels, omega-3 fatty acids we know are protective against heart disease. They have anti-inflammatory properties, and we saw that with heart disease and plaque buildup. It's an inflammation there, so there's a lot of research to suggest it's anti-inflammatory, lowers blood pressure, improves the function, the cell lining of blood vessels, and modulates heartbeats. So more fish, more whole foods, not fried, grilled and baked is the better way to do that. Healthy My Plate choices for whole food. We talked about nuts are good sources of monounsaturated fats, which helps lower our LDL cholesterol and makes it less susceptible to oxidation. They're high in omega-3 fatty acids. They have fiber, vegetable protein, antioxidants, plant sterols. And we know that diets containing, I usually say, nuts and seeds may improve blood lipids and the functioning of cell lining in the artery walls. Plant sterols. You may have heard a little bit about this if you know anybody with heart disease and you're wondering what are plant sterols. And now that you know what sterols are, you should be to answer that a little better. But plant sterols resemble cholesterol chemically, and they make it difficult for the GI tract to distinguish them from cholesterol. So there's been a lot of research in if we consume plant sterols, will it reduce cholesterol absorption, lower our total and cholesterol and our LDL cholesterol levels. And plant sterols are found in vegetable oils, nuts, seeds, cereals, beans, and many fruits and vegetables. And now they're added to a lot of foods, margarine, salad dressings, and orange juice for those people looking for their protective effects. Whole foods like oatmeal, brown rice are good sources of soluble fiber. We know, but what we learned in the carbohydrate chapter, that soluble fiber has been shown to reduce blood cholesterol levels. Whole grains also provide some omega-3 fatty acids, B vitamins, and antioxidants, as well as other phytochemicals that have been shown to protect against heart disease. Whole foods, as far as modest consumption of dark chocolate, you've probably heard a little bit of why is dark chocolate good for me, but it's associated with the reduced risk of heart disease, and it's attributed to the phytochemicals in the dark chocolate. And in addition, most of the fat in chocolate is from stearic acid, a saturated fatty acid that does not cause an increase in blood levels of LDL cholesterol. So moderation. Moderate alcohol consumption, and this is very important to understand, that is 1 drink a day for women and 2 a day for men. And mainly it's been a red wine that this has been associated with. In reducing blood clotting, increases HDL cholesterol, but excess can still raise blood triglyceride levels, and we find that people with very high triglycerides often have a very high alcohol or sugar content in their diet. So higher alcohol intake does increase the risk of heart disease and causes lots of other problems, health and societal problems. So less processed foods, whole foods, soy. We know that soy can lower the risk of heart disease. It has a small LDL cholesterol lowering effect, and it's high in healthy polyunsaturated fat, fiber, vitamins, and minerals, and low in unhealthy saturated fat. So what is the Mediterranean diet? It's talked about a lot, and it's a contemporary approach to eating, and we talked a little bit about it before. We want to eat less of the items at the top of the pyramid and eat more and perform the activities on the bottom part. So meats and sweets less often. Poultry and eggs, moderate portions every 2 days or weekly. Cheese and yogurt, moderate portions daily or weekly. Fish and seafood, often at least 2 times per week. And fruits, vegetables, grains, mostly whole, olive oil, beans, nuts, legumes and seeds, herbs and spices. Base every meal on these foods. Be physically active. Enjoy meals with others, wine in moderation, and lots of water. Food labels, I think we've gone into that into great details. We want to be able to understand those foods that we're consuming too much, trans fats, saturated fats, and cholesterol, sodium. Those are important that we understand those in the diet, and then looking in the ingredients list for items and the types of oils that are listed, if hydrogenated oil is an ingredient. Food labels, again, fat-free, what they mean. Reduced fat is similar to reduced sugar, less than 25%. Low fat, less than 3 grams per serving. But really we want to focus on less processed, healthier oils. Fat replacers, they were big for a while, but they've kind of gone by the wayside. There's different types, olestra, soluble fibers. Sometimes they take out the fat and add more sugar, and some protein-based fat replacers. So that's the end of chapter 5, and be sure to follow up with your homework, watching the supersized movie with your newfound fat information. Every time I watch it, I catch something different. I've watched it many, many times, so I think you will too. Even if you've watched it, there definitely will be a question on the test about the movie, and you'll need to explain it, and I need to know that you know how this chapter on fats relates to the movie, and him talking about his blood lipid levels and that sort of thing. I think you'll look at it in a really different way.